Hey there, Pinpoint Players. Tim here with the Pinpoint Player Podcast. I'm joined today with my buddy Rambo.
Hey there, everybody.
And today we'll be talking about a franchise that I'm sure most of us are familiar with, have played with, and have forgotten.
Especially if you're a millennial or even maybe a really old Zoomer.
But today we're going to remind you about the legacy, the legendary rhythmic games, Guitar Hero and Rock Band.
We're going to talk a little bit about its brief history, our personal anecdotes, and just what the hell happened to it over the past 5-6 years. And so we'll get right into it. So just real quick, the whole rhythm games industry goes, I think, back to the 90s with, you had your DDRs, you had, I think, Drum Mania. Those were your Japanese entries. And I think at the time, the developer Harmonix partnered with Red Octane, decided that, you know what, we're going to bring these rhythm games over here to the US, and they started that in earnest. Their very first game was Guitar Hero, and it came out only on the PS2.
I believe it was released in 2005. A little bit of the research that I did into Guitar Hero, Red Octane discovered a Japanese arcade game called Guitar Fury. Quick side note, it's Guitar Freaks. Guitar Freaks.
Yes, the American market was red hot ready for this, and like we said, Guitar Hero 1 came out just for PS2 in 2005, and I think a couple years later, so I think 2007 at this point, they released Guitar Hero 2, still Harmonix and Red Octane working together, but they released it, instead of just doing it on the PS2, they also did it on the Xbox 360. It wasn't until the two companies split apart and Red Octane partnered with Neversoft and had Activision as a publisher where they went toward the Guitar Hero 3 side, and then Harmonix partnered or was acquired by MTV Games and went for Rock Band at that point, starting in 2008. So you had a split at that point, but I feel like the split was warranted because the market was red hot and everybody wanted a piece of that, and how right they were, because I remember myself getting into Rock Band from Bennett. Shout out to Bennett again.
Shout out to Bennett.
Bennett got me into Rock Band, showed me how awesome it was, but before I even met him, we had gotten Guitar Hero 3 for Christmas, and I played it for the first time. I was playing medium with only 4 frets. Slower song, I was just not very good. God help me, I could not do any songs on hard and expert for the longest time, but I enjoyed the game. I loved it, and got so much joy out of it. But unfortunately, the only unfortunate thing I'll say at the time was it was for the Wii, and the Wii did not have any downloadable content. You were stuck with whatever the Guitar Hero 3 game was. And my other friends had PlayStation 3s, and they had access to a whole lot of extra downloadable content. I was definitely jealous because it kind of sucked. With Guitar Hero 3, you were limited to the, I think, 70-ish songs on there. But the DLC had like a few Journey songs. I think it had, later on they had an Aerosmith song. There was a Metallica pack later on. So it was a whole host of extra songs, and that got me thinking that, oh man, if I want to get the full experience, unfortunately, I have to get an Xbox 360. And I ended up doing that. I ended up getting the Xbox 360 to get the Rock Band 1, the whole band set where it has the drums, the guitar, which was actually kind of crappy to play with, and the microphone. And then we all just started playing it together during the summers, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I remember you were able to play Rock Band with a Guitar Hero controller, but
Yep.
You couldn't play a Guitar Hero song with a Rock Band controller.
So I have to go double check
I'm pretty sure that was the case. I'm pretty sure, but I might be mistaken. If we are, let us know down below, guys.
But in any case, the Rock Band controller, in my opinion, was just kind of bad to play with because it was really clacky. The strum bar, I know some people like the silent strum bar from the Rock Band controller, but I was of the mindset I like a click noise when I hit the note because I want to be able to hear the feedback as I'm hitting it from the TV. So let me know that, hey, I've hit this red note, for example.
I was introduced to rhythmic games through my roommate, Michael Cox. Shout out to Mike. He was playing the toughest song, which I forget.
Guitar Hero 2, it was Jordan by Buckethead.
Buckethead, yes!
And then on Guitar Hero 3, it was Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force, which is a very infamous song, I feel like, even almost 15 years later.
Well, I mean, I haven't forgotten about Through the Fire and Flames. Yeah, my buddy Dave, shout out to Dave, we were getting interested in the idea of Guitar Hero and Rock Band. When we first heard about it, we thought it was really stupid.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
When it came out on PS2 in 2005, I thought oh man, this is dumb. You're playing a plastic guitar. Why not play a real guitar?
Why don't you learn how to play a real instrument?
Which on the one hand, fine. But on the other hand, you just kind of want to play a game and kind of jam out with your friends, and you're more than likely going to find folks that are more willing to play a plastic guitar than be like, hey, pick up this acoustic guitar and start playing and get good within an hour.
It was also very introductory in the sense that you didn't have a lot on the line. You were just playing a video game.
Right.
As opposed to if you were in a group of musicians. I know tons of musicians, and some of them can be very, I don't want to sound insulting, but like pretentious.
Well, that's just it. It's intimidating.
It's intimidating.
Right.
Thank you.
Even if this musician is a nice dude, gives you your guitar and says like, hey, start, playing a lick, basically. It's not going to go well. Even if you can play a basic level of guitar, it's still not going to go well because there's this intimidation factor. But even if you get over the intimidation factor, you're not as good as them, so you'll feel inadequate. But with a plastic guitar, even if you're playing on easy, medium, expert, hard, it doesn't matter the difficulty level. You're playing a game with a bunch of people, you're jamming, and you're getting through. Like, even if everybody else is playing on expert and you're playing on easy, hey, you're all having fun. And that was the idea, this inclusivity. And I feel like the rhythm games, Rock Band and Guitar Hero both nailed that. That's camaraderie, that's, fun of being in the same place and just playing music together.
But my roommate, Michael Cox, he played Buckethead, that song. Jordan, thank you. And we could not believe what he needed to do just to get to a certain part of the song. And it was mind-blowing. It was like we thought it was an easy game because we just saw colors and associating it with the button and being like, oh, okay, click, simple. We didn't know how difficult it could be. And then from that point on, we just started playing a single-player campaign, and then we jumped into a multiplayer campaign. And then Guitar Hero 3 came out. And at the time, Guitar Hero 3 was the pinnacle of the rhythm games genre. It had the best music associated with it. It had the highest quality controller available. And it was a direct competitor to Rock Band, because at that time, Activision and Red Octane had split off and developed Rock Band. With that being said, before Rock Band 2, I felt like Guitar Hero was the rhythm game king.
I kind of agree in that. So I more fondly remember Rock Band because of the full band experience and all the songs. Too. But I feel like in terms of the gameplay, in terms of the music coming on the track and you strumming and hitting it, I felt like it was more polished for Guitar Hero 3. Although at that point, there had been 2 previous Guitar Hero games, so there was a lot of stuff they could leverage from the old ones. And Rock Band 1 was definitely a very good game. I have very fond memories of it. I'd still probably go back and play it and enjoy it.
What was great about Rock Band 1 is that because it was developed by Red Octane and Harmonix, they had the rights to Guitar Hero 1 and 2's set lists. So you had a next generation console game playing the same sort of mechanics, the same songs, different game.
Well, that's just it. And I feel like with Rock Band 2 was where Harmonix, nailed the mechanics down. It was very, very similar to Rock Band 1 in terms of like the gameplay, the setup, but what made it feel good was that they polished up the way the notes would come down on the highway. They added more songs. They added a kind of a bigger career mode. Like Rock Band 1 had this global career mode where you were going around and playing songs in different arenas. Rock Band 2 polished it that much further, and you could do it with your friends. So it felt like it was an awesome experience just touring the world, playing games, or playing at different places and playing all these set lists in it. It was fun. I enjoyed it immensely. I played it for hours and hours and hours, and it was a great game, and it kind of stood alone. And the best part was, from the days of Rock Band 1, you had DLC or downloadable content being released every week. Every week there'd be a new song or songs. Like it'd either be an entire pack, or it'd be a Who pack, some sort of country pack, or it'd be a bunch of singles. Either way, it was an awesome experience just being able to get new songs every Tuesday, provided that you were interested in them. Now, I think it was Tuesdays oddly enough, the Xbox got it on Tuesdays, and I think the PlayStation got it either a day or two later, and I'm not sure why. It could have been some exclusivity thing. Doesn't matter. That was a little weird quirk that Xbox always got it first, and then PlayStation got it second.
That is interesting. Guitar Hero 1 started on PlayStation, So it's interesting that they would want to swap out their carrier. Harmonix developed Guitar Hero 1 and Rock Band 2. So to get the DLC on its competitor brand, it was an interesting thing. Yeah, I wonder why they did that.
Well, it was just the different versions. The Xbox would get it before the PlayStation, and I'm sure there was some exclusive licensing agreement, kind of like an open TTD where you have exclusive rights to a town or something. Right. But can look into that more for another time. But for now, you had Rock Band 2, which was released in, I think, 2008. Yes, it was released in 2008. And then Guitar Hero, the makers of Guitar Hero, seeing that, oh my God, they got a full band experience. Like, in order for us to compete, we have to release, something like cutting edge, brand new. But before I talk about that, I just want to quickly throw shade at Guitar Hero Aerosmith. in between Guitar Hero 3 and Guitar Hero World Tour, which was the full band experience, which I'll talk about in another minute, they released Guitar Hero Aerosmith, which was basically just a clone. To me, it looked like a lazy clone of Guitar Hero 3, but with Aerosmith songs. Now, I don't begrudge Aerosmith, the band, or the songs. Fair enough. They released the... Wait, why do you?
It's interesting. I'll admit this. I'm not a fan of Aerosmith.
Like you just fundamentally hate their music, or you just fundamentally don't like the people?
Don't like the music. I think Steven Tyler's an asshole. Is that it?
The only thing I'll say is I'm not going to go out of my way to listen to Aerosmith. Let's put it that way. But then they released Guitar Hero Aerosmith, which to me felt like a cheap clone of Guitar Hero 3, like down to how it looked on the note highway, to the in-game characters, the in-game models playing the songs. It looked very cheapish. It looked like a product that was kind of rushed just to get a little extra cash. And to be honest, how we've talked about Activision, that is a very Activision-y thing to do, to release something that is a kind of a cheap clone of something that was released the year prior and then just getting money for it. That sounds like something very similar. But in any case, they released Aerosmith. It was not very good, in my opinion. It was just a cheap cash grab. But then they kind of made up for it with Guitar Hero World Tour. They had the full band experience. You had the guitars, the bass, you had the drums, which included 5 notes to hit instead of 4, like with Rock Band. And it was cool in that it was a different experience. So instead of hitting 4 notes, you had 3 pads, and then you had the 2 cymbals up top. So it sort of felt like you were playing a very simplistic drum set. The problem was, when it came out, there were a lot of quality control issues. The drums would not work properly. Now the guitar, I can't speak to that too much because at that point, they've had the guitar out for about 4 years, so that was probably fine. But the drums were not working properly out of the get-go. So if you got a working drum set, working bass pedal, and you never had to replace it, congratulations to you folks that had that, because that was not the experience I had, and it was kind of annoying. So I would have to hope that the next one I got, when I return it, would work properly, and I had to go through a couple before I got one that would work properly. But in the end, I mostly used the Rock Band drum set because it was consistently working a whole lot better than the Guitar Hero one. I mean, they fixed the quality control stuff for later entries, but for the World Tour one, they definitely had issues coming out of the game. But it was a very good game, and overall, good set list. They had a couple Tool songs that had these weird backgrounds. They had a Hot for Teacher, and they had a bunch of other good classic rock songs.
So, before I get into my grievances with World Tour, I'd also just like to say, Aerosmith Guitar Hero, I did get it. I got the controller, I got the game.
So did I. And I
played it. But I played it because when I was into Rock Band 2 and Guitar Hero 3, I was looking for a challenge. I was looking for more of that type of gameplay to play. And they had decided to release that as a game as opposed to DLC. It could have easily just been...
No, you're right. It could have been an extra $20 expansion. Like, hey, you want this Aerosmith, collection of like 30 or 40 Aerosmith songs?
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah, just here's it is as a $20, DLC pack.
But why would I need to buy a new controller? Why would I need to buy an entirely new game off of this? And part of it is, I think it's the licensing. They had a huge licensing issue when they were getting these games to development. Because at first, Rock Band 1 and 2 just had covers of the songs. And those were fun covers to play.
Yeah, like Train Kept a Rolling was a cover.
Yeah.
In Rock Band 1, I should say.
But Guitar Hero 3, I think, was one of the first to have licensed tracks that where you were playing the actual song from the actual artist.
Right, whereas with Rock Band 1, so they did have a lot of covers. Not all of them were covers, but I want to say and they're going to be entirely wrong with this, I want to say it was between 8 and a dozen that were covers of the song. Right. Decent, pretty good covers, I will say, compared to the originals, but still covers.
When the licensing kind of took over and they got a good, decent response, A, because players actually did want to play along to the song that they, listened to, and B, because the boom of rhythmic games was really taking off. So people who played the actual games, who had their music in the games, were like, well, let's get in on this. And it's no surprise to me, just because of my biasedness, that something like a group like Aerosmith would be like, hey, money, you can't release a DLC. You have to make it its own specific game. It wouldn't surprise me, just because I don't like Aerosmith. But moving on, World Tour.
I will say, I want to say one last thing on Aerosmith.
Sure.
This isn't a defense or anything of Aerosmith. This is more of I feel like had Aerosmith or like whoever was behind the decisions to make Guitar Hero Aerosmith, I feel like had they released it maybe 2 years later, it would have been a better product. And not that it would have been more polished or less, cookie cuttery. It would have been better in that it would have been the full band experience, because later on they released Guitar Hero, Metallica, Van Halen. We'll get to that in a few more minutes. And that was the full band experience with drums, bass, and all that. Whereas Guitar Hero Aerosmith was just a carbon copy clone of Guitar Hero 3, and it felt just like that. It felt like a cookie cutter experience. So had the full band experience been there, would it have been cookie cuttery? Of course, I think. But at least it would have been a more compelling experience. Whereas I played it for about a week, and then I never played it again.
Yeah, that's about it. That's about my experience as well. But you're right. I mean, a lot of people do enjoy Aerosmith because they're a great band. They've made great music. Perhaps, if some people had been more interested in playing Aerosmith's drums, the drums from Aerosmith songs, or singing
right,
like that lunatic Steve Tyler, yes, absolutely. It would have probably done a lot better, but it was specific to Guitar Hero.
Right, and it just didn't. And it just wasn't given legs to flourish because it was just a cash grab. But anyway.
But yes, World Tour. World Tour was very interesting. It was completely expected too, considering Rock Band, Guitar Hero's largest competitor, was a full band experience. So it was just a matter of time. And World Tour, there's nothing really good. I mean, you've said some nice things.
Let's put it this way.
You've said some nice things about World Tour, yeah.
Let's put it this way. With Rock Band versus World Tour, I mean, I will take Rock Band 10 times out of 10.
Every day.
But World Tour, to me, is still a fun experience overall as a package. Now, if I had to give it out of a 10, I would say it's a solid 7.5. Meaning
really?
7. I mean that.
I'd give it a 3.
I would say it's a 7.5 because it had a lot of songs, a lot of classic songs, and it had the full band experience. You could also create custom songs on there, and again, the online play, the whole, whether it's you're playing with friends online or you're playing with friends in the same room, as we talked about in the last episode. To me, it had enough of a cohesive package to kind of give it that score. Now, the reason I would give it higher is because it was its first bandy game. It still had some rough edges.
Sure.
And that's, sure, you wish that there would have been more quality control with the drums. Sure, you wish that maybe they had a little bit more variety in some of the set list itself. But in that sense, I give it a 7.5 because it did things mostly good, but there's always room for improvements.
Like I said before, I would give it a 3. 7's a high rating in my mind. Let me just gloss over your comments about it, and let me just kind of dissect it to explain why I give it a 3. So yeah, it had a lot of songs. Don't need an entire $200 box for a group of songs that you don't have on another game. Those instruments already existed with its competitor, so they weren't really, sure, yeah, 5-track drums. That's great.
Well, no, I'm talking about the drums. The only thing I'll say to that, just to interrupt you real quick, is if you wanted to just get the standalone game and use the Rock Band instruments, you could as well.
Oh, yes, dude, completely blew my mind. Yeah, they sold it in 3 different ways: the game with the
guitar,
or the full box.
Yes.
overlooked that. I appreciate you bringing that up. I forgot about that. Because I did get World Tour, but just with the guitar. Like I was saying, the instruments already existed. And from what you've said, Rock Band's instruments were a superior one to choose from. You start, when you got the World Tour drum set, they were defective. They didn't work properly. Yep. So you just went back to the Rock Band one.
Right. No, that took it down in my notch. That took it down in my... Actually, you know what? You make a fair point because it's... All right, the package of the game itself, just the game, not even the instruments, to me, it gets at 7.5. But if I'm taking in the whole experience, the whole bundle of all the instruments in the box, okay, I'm going to ding that back to a 6 because at the same time, that's quality control. You pay for a product, it should work.
Exactly.
So I'll ding it back because of that. But if I was talking purely just the CD itself,
sure.
Like you're buying the standalone CD, 7.5.
Sure. I'll give that Guitar Hero controller like a 2. Like it was a different. Work? I didn't understand how to use the fret system.
Oh, they had this weird guitar solo thing where you would use the fret. It's like it was there to like look cool because Rock Band had its own little solo-y buttons toward the bottom of the bass, the inside part of the frets. So there was an attempt to like copy what Rock Band was doing, but it didn't work very well. Like everybody I talked to said they never used it. Even like today, looking back at and having YouTubers talk about it, everybody said they didn't use it. You might have those odd wedge cases where somebody said like, yeah, I used it. It was great. It was fine. It's like, okay, well, 98% of us said it kind of didn't work properly.
The OG rock stars never used it, and I'm pretty sure they disliked it. Just because it was out of the norm. They've developed a way to play the game. They learned how to play the game that way, and that's how they play the game well. Then you're just going to throw in this new thing. Oh, we're copying our competitor because we're Activision.
Yeah, and we got to make monies. But
yeah.
All right, so let me ask you then. If you were to rate just the game, no instruments, like none of that BS, if you were to rate just the game as its product with your previous Rock Band instruments, previous Guitar Hero instruments.
Then give it a 0.
You give it a 0?
Yeah.
How do you give it a 0?
It was quite simply Rock Band. That would be my 10. That would be my 10. And then you're gonna have. All right. Let me rephrase this. Let me put this in another way. You know how when a movie came out, you'd have the movie and the poster and the sales, and people would, oh, I can't wait to see that movie. But then you'd walk down the street of New York, and there'd be someone on the street selling you a bootleg copy of the same movie.
Well, yeah, but I see what you're getting at. I 100% see what you're...
World Tour is the bootleg copy to Rock Band.
Oh, trust me. If no one's going to be able to argue with me that Guitar Hero is a superior product over Rock Band. Rock Band, the only time that might have been true where Guitar Hero was a superior product is Guitar Hero 3's guitar bass elements were better than Rock Band's at the time.
Right.
That's about it. Other than that, I'm always going to say Rock Band's a superior product. But it's kind of like comparing, let's say, your luxury car Lexus versus Toyota. It's like, yes, everybody wants the Lexus. It's a superior car, like through and through. Like it has a bunch of more bells and whistles. To me, it's more polished product. Your Toyota is fine for what it is. Like, it's always going to be inferior. But I feel like there's room for both in this world. And Guitar Hero, to me, yes, Rock Band is a superior product, but I felt like World Tour is a compelling enough product. You go play it for the songs. You go play it with friends. You have the, full band experience. That, to me, is why I would give it the score it is. I wouldn't... Again, I agree with you.
That's fine.
Oh, no, trust me. I agree with you. Rock Band is a superior product. Guitar is the bootleg. But the bootleg is okay. The bootleg's not going to win, like...
Don't waste your money. Don't waste your money on the bootleg.
I mean, we already did.
We did, but I mean, like, if you had to... Like, if we were to make this choice today, if we were... all right, so let me
it's
just...
tough with the power of hindsight, because at the time, those were both the games at the time.
It was. But think about it like this. I suppose I can work it into, like, a probability of existence, just for the fact that they should have sold it at a competitive price to Rock Band. But I believe it was around the same price.
I think so. I think the box for Rock Band was, I want to say it was $200, unless you got it on sale, and I want to say it was the same for Guitar Hero, because I think because Rock Band established the precedent that they can get away with selling it for this.
Right.
Guitar Hero had to match it, no matter what, basically.
So let's say you had $200 and you were at a store and you had the world tour with the microphone, the drum kit, the guitar, and the game. And then you had Rock Band 2 with the guitar, the drum kit, the mic, and the game. You had $200. No one is going to spend that $200 on the world tour kit.
The only thing I'll say on that is, all right, so if it's you and I, obviously we're going to go for the Rock Band.
We're both going for Rock Band 2.
I know, but let me make an argument here. I could see a parent getting the games for their kid, and here's the thing: Guitar Hero came first as far as its franchise. Obviously, Harmonix and Red Octane worked together to make it, but a lot of people from the mid-2000s when Guitar Hero came out have Guitar Hero on their brain. They're thinking, hey, I remember when Guitar Hero was popular because of the ads, because of the commercials, and an ambulance is going by, so let's give that a second.
Yeah, someone had a heart attack hearing that someone was going to spend $200 on a world tour kit.
But these parents that have maybe kids, they remember Guitar Hero being popular. Maybe they heard Rock Band 2, but because Guitar Hero came first, it's on their minds, on their hearts. They're thinking, let me get this for, little Jimmy here, because it was popular then, and I'm sure this is going to be the whole fun experience that Jimmy's going to want for Christmas. And it's probably a big reason why there was a bunch of sales. And the other thing is, there were a lot of YouTubers back then I remember watching where they would make videos of them playing the guitar and doing the Rock Band with the drum or the guitar track, showing them getting 100%. And sure, I think there was one of them as a superior product over the other, but they played both games because both games had their own challenge to try and get 100% on the song, or to try and beat Through the Fire and Flames. Basically, people just wanted to be able to play more songs, and the only way to do that at the time was to be able to get those two separate games separately, because there's no way licensing-wise they were going to mesh their worlds together. I mean, sometimes every now and then you'd have overlap. You'd have songs that were on both platforms, in which case, great. You don't have to play it on this one. You get to play it on this one. But if you wanted to go play, for example, if you wanted that true experience at the time to play, Through the Fire and Flames, you played it on Guitar Hero. Now, funny enough, they did actually release it later on Rock Band, but that was a full 5 or so years later. But, okay, so, point being, all right, so we can say that, we definitely say Rock Band's a superior product. World Tour, I think, had its place, but Rock Band was a superior product, and obviously with the power of hindsight, knowing what we know now, maybe we would just get the Rock Band one, because we only had so much money at the time. But that said, at the time, the rhythm game industry was very popular, and the idea of just getting one over the other was tough, because you wanted to be able to play a little bit of everything, wanted a piece of everything. And
I can understand that, yeah. There was probably that one song, or there was that group of songs on World Tour that wasn't on Rock Band or Rock Band 2. That justifies it. That's a $50 purchase, because you're just getting the game. You have all the other thing. Yeah, but that's not how Activision kept going with it, because I think within the same year that they released Aerosmith, they did Metallica.
So I think about a year later into that. So we're
No. I think Aerosmith and Metallica were released the same year.
They weren't. I can tell you because
were they?
No, because I remember Aerosmith was released in between Guitar Hero 3 and World Tour.
Just double check, because I feel like
I guarantee it.
Was it really a year apart?
Yeah, no, I guarantee it. So we looked it up, folks. We found out that Guitar Hero Metallica came out the next year in 2009 after World Tour, and this was one of the few Guitar Hero games where I was ecstatic to buy it because I was in a Metallica phase. They had a bunch of good Metallica songs going all the way back to the original album, Kill 'Em All, and it was a blast to go play all of them, including the drums. And the drums were really tough on some of the songs, especially their older tracks. And then they had a bunch of other songs, they had a Slayer song. Point is, I felt to me it was a very good product. It's yes, it was a band-oriented game. It clearly had it was clear for those people that like Metallica, but I felt like it was a very complete product for what it was delivering. Now, the one afterwards, Van Halen, I feel like that was kind of more cash grabby. I mean, I played it and
completely forgot that they did a Van Halen expansion.
And here's the thing, I would never have played it unless I got it for free, because at the time when you bought Guitar Hero Metallica, if you did something like some mail ordery thing where you sent something to Red Octane or whatever, they would actually send you the game of Van Halen for free, maybe many months later, and that's how I ended up getting the game.
According to the Guitar Hero Wiki, Van Halen was released December 22nd, 2009, though customers that purchased Guitar Hero 5 under a special promotion received a copy of the game early.
Okay, so there it is. Okay, so it wasn't Metallica, because I bought Guitar Hero 5, because again, I was really into the rhythm games, so I got Guitar Hero 5. I thought at that point Guitar Hero 5 was more polished definitely than World Tour, but still, again, an inferior product when compared to Rock Band 3 at the time. I think at this point Rock Band 3 was out, because I think this was 2000. No, sorry. I think Rock Band 3 came out in 2010. But even still, I would play Rock Band 2 more than I would play Guitar Hero 5, because I felt like it was a more engaging product just overall. But one other note I want to say in between was that I liked, in terms of Guitar Hero release, was they released Guitar Hero Smash Hit, which was kind of cool because it took all the music from Guitar Hero, or not all of it, but it took the best tracks from Guitar Hero 1, Guitar Hero 2, Guitar Hero 3,
that's right.
and Guitar Hero World Tour, and then they put it together in Smash Hits, but gave it a full band treatment. So you can go play Cowboys from Hell with the full band treatment. You can go play all the others, like Heart Shaped Box by Nirvana, another one, for the full band experience. And I thought, hey, that was pretty cool because I liked playing them on guitar back then, but you always wanted to play maybe the drums or maybe to do the vocals, and it was a nice way to get the whole experience.
Oh, yeah. And I do want to bring this up because in our research, I completely changed my opinion about World Tour, specifically because of one piece of information that I found. So let me just reiterate and clarify for the Pinpoint players. Guitar Hero World Tour is a great game because they put Jimi Hendrix songs in World Tour. I just came across...
Did you confuse it with another Guitar Hero game?
No, I completely forgot that they had Jimi Hendrix on Guitar Hero.
Well, that's why I was surprised because it was like Guitar Hero World Tour had a collection of pretty decent songs. Like they had a couple Ozzy Osbournes. They had Hendrix, Billy Corgan. I think he did a couple Smashing Pumpkins songs. So yeah, no, that's what I mean. They had a collection of decent songs.
Yeah, they had a couple of Zakk Wylde and Ozzy Osbourne together.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, dude. I loved playing the Hendrix songs, and I completely forgot where I played them because now, in our research, they are on both systems. But at the time, World Tour had the first DLC expansion for Hendrix. Yeah, it's a great game.
Okay, so glad to hear you change your mind on that. Okay, so that makes what we talked about 10, 15 minutes ago kind of,
but it's still fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it.
Yep. All right, so again, moving ahead.
Van Halen special promotion.
Yeah, which was, honestly, I won't say too much other than I played it. It was just okay, even though it was a full band experience. It was honestly just okay. Because, again, just like Aerosmith, it felt cash grabby. I felt like Guitar Hero Metallica was a more polished product for a one-band type of game. Then they came out with Rock Band 3 in 2010, and again, had to get it because still love Rock Band. Then they had the keyboard, which I remember getting that separately. There was, I think, a keyboard and game bundle, and I got that one because at this point I had all the other instruments, so I didn't need to go get a box or anything like other people. And again, played the keyboard, loved it. It was another fun way of playing the game, and the best part was I think they incorporated a bunch of old music into it, so every now and then they would update old tracks to be able to include pro guitar, which was like playing with strings, pro bass, same idea, and then they had these pro drums where if you had these special attachments to your current Rock Band drum set, you could have separate cymbal notes to hits versus just regular squares. And then the vocals, they had a kind of a harmonies background. So they took a product that was already really awesome and they found a way to just enhance it and just innovate even more. And last thing before that, I want to say they released Rock Band Beatles, which was another awesome.
Oh, dude, yes, holy shit, Band Beatles.
I know, I almost went past that, but yeah, 2009 they released Rock Band Beatles, and it was fun. It was a collection of some of the best Beatles songs from many different albums, and they had some DLC where they released I think 3 different albums, including one was Rubber Soul, was another one they released, but I always wanted more from that one. I played it.
Me too.
I enjoyed it. I went through the entire career mode. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It showed the Beatles in their most pivotal moments, like at the beginning when they started in England, like when they went to Shea Stadium in the U.S. in the early 60s, their whole India tour where they did Sgt. Pepper's, and then their last performance is when they recorded Abbey Road, and then when they did Let It Be on that rooftop, that famous performance. So it was a full experience where you got to kind of play through the entire band's history, and I always wish they had more DLC, but I remember reading once, maybe 5-6 years back, that the reason they didn't have any more DLC after that was the game didn't sell as well as they wanted. I mean, it sold well, but it didn't sell extremely well because at the time it was released in 2009, and that was during the recession. So as a result, people weren't spending a whole lot of money because a lot of people did lose their jobs or houses. So the last thing they could do was spend money on a full band set for the Beatles or even just the game itself. So it was just bad timing. Had it not been for the recession, maybe they would have felt more emboldened to do more specific band releases, kind of like what Guitar Hero did with Metallica, Aerosmith, Van Halen, but it was not to be, unfortunately. And that was a shame because I love the Beatles Rock Band. I thought it was a very, very well-polished game. Like, it just felt distinctly its own product. The note track, when it comes down and hits you, the artwork felt different, the backgrounds were different. Some of the songs on Sgt. Pepper's had a psychedelic background, so I just felt like it was a very polished product through and through.
Yeah, they really wanted to make that game good, and they did. I mean, there was a lot of influences behind the scenes that were in discussions to make sure that the game was, at the caliber it needed to be, especially since it was for the Beatles.
And then I feel like it's funny, the decline started, I feel like mostly for two reasons. You and I started to get out of college, have real world responsibilities, just like a bunch of other millennials. And then the recession, people just weren't spending as much money. And you combine those two factors together, I feel like this was inevitable. It had its peak, it plateaued, and then it started to decline because people moved on to other things, had less money to spend on it, and there was just less interest. So it was inevitable, and the amount of games released after 2011 kind of speak to that. I mean, after Rock Band 3, they released a couple other spin-offy Rock Band games, which were okay. And then the last Rock Band game they released was in 2015, which was intended to be the only game they were released on the PS4, Xbox One. The idea was to release one game, you can use your previous DLC on it, which is fine. But they got rid of the keyboard, and they got rid of some of the harmonies. Basically, they got rid of some of the extra peripherals that were awesome in Rock Band 3. So they kind of handicapped it a little bit, which is unfortunate. And then in Guitar Hero, they released Warriors of Rock, which was the last one I got. And honest to God, it was okay. And that's all I'll say on that. It was an okay game. The songs on there were fine, but I feel like the experience at that point was just kind of tapering off for me. Guitar Hero was starting to run out of steam at that point. And then the last game they released for Guitar Hero was called Guitar Hero Live. It's the last entry in the series. The same year, I think, as Rock Band 4, 2015, using real people in the audience to give it a more realistic vibe versus something more cartoony like the previous ones. So, safely say, once we were done with college, you and I anyway, it started to run out of steam, point blank.
Yeah, it's clear as day that these games were just intended for Rambo and I. And as soon as we stopped playing, they were just like, all right, market's gone. But what it really does speak to is how quick fads. I mean, we all had fads. I mean, we grew up with Pogs. Pokemon was considered a fad for a little bit.
Beanie Babies are probably the ultimate.
Beanie Babies, ultimate fads. But there was the fad. So the innovation that was going on in 2005 and 2006 brought about wonderful ideas for video games and gaming, which gamers today, you can still find modders and gaming engineers who are using Rock Band, Guitar Hero, and the rhythmic style games today for their own purposes, to either continue making interesting, challenging songs to play for Rock Band and Guitar Hero, or for people who are just innovating games in general. It was a very nice innovation to see Rock Band and Guitar Hero do.
You love to see it. You love to see where it went.
It was exciting.
Yeah.
It was this new experience to do on a video game console. But it also touched on the hearts and minds of a lot of people who inspired to be musicians, who wanted to play music, who would get their friends together and say, let's start a band.
Let's jam out. We don't have to be good at it. Some people play easy, some people play medium, some hard, some expert, but we all played together in the same room and had a really good time. And in the end, it kind of came out at the right time. And the other thing is just American culturally wise. So over in Japan, a lot of those rhythmic games like DDR, Drummania, and a bunch of others that I can't even think of the names of, they're still doing well. They might not be the most popular games over there, but there's still a community that's still really into it. And there's probably still a community here in the U.S. that are still interested in the games that we just talked about.
There actually might be, because in our research, we did come across that Rock Band is still releasing downloadable content weekly.
Oh, actually, let me just get into that in a sec. But I mean, the other thing I'll say is culturally Americans, and we'll get to that DLC and stuff in a second. Culturally, Americans, I feel like, are more subjected to fad stuff than maybe some other cultures in that. This new flashy thing comes out, everyone gets excited about it, everybody wants a piece of it, and that's whether it's investing, whether that's a new movie, whether it's a TV show, everybody gets into it, talks about it, and then it's kind of gone from the vernacular forever. Game of Thrones is an example of that, but it had a bad ending, but that's a different story. Again, but people getting into something, people loving it, enjoying it, and like talking about it with their friends and enjoying it together, and then it just kind of disappears from the mainstream, and that's how it goes. The same thing happened with fighting games from the 90s. Everybody wanted to play Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. Fighting games were big in the 90s. They were more mainstreamy, whereas these days, they're more niche-like. They still make Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter games, but they're more in the niche. But that said, there is a staying community, even for Rock Band and Guitar Hero in the US. But for Rock Band specifically, they still release songs on a weekly basis, surprisingly. And I did not know that. I figured that they would have stopped that years ago, because in 2013, they initially stopped releasing it after they had been releasing weekly songs for nearly 7 years. And the last one they released in 2013 before their 2-3 year hiatus was American Pie by Don McLean, and that was very apropos because, well, the day the music died.
The day the music died. It's almost as if they predicted it, but I mean, they did make that call to stop producing mainline Rock Band games.
And then the DLC too, they stopped the DLC because at that point the sales were probably diminishing. And then they kicked it back off a couple years later when they released Rock Band 4. It tended to be the one sole game for the PS4, Xbox One system era.
In January 2015, they started to do more DLC, and it has been pretty persistent the last 6 years. Weekly.
Yeah, it looks like they've been releasing stuff weekly. Like we're looking at the Wikipedia as we're talking to you now, and it looks like it's a weekly. Now, I will say, it doesn't look like it's as many songs as the old era. There are less packs. There are a lot more singles, which maybe for licensing for that is easier. But hey, in earnest, they're still releasing stuff weekly, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah. As of recording this episode, today, May 20th, 2021, they actually released 2 more singles for Rock Band in DLC. Between the Buried and Me's All Bodies, and Chelsea Grin's Cheyenne Stokes.
Between the Buried and Me, that was a band they released on Rock Band in like 2008, 2009 as part of remember in Rock Band 2 they had if you bought Rock Band 2 they would give you 20 free downloadable songs. They came out a few months later. Yeah, Between the Buried and Me was one of the artists that was part of that. And,
nice.
And a lot of their music is insanely difficult. I remember they released one called Prequel to the Sequel that I had a hell of a time trying to beat.
That does sound familiar, Prequel to the Sequel.
But the last thing we'll say, because we've talked for a while about this, we could easily go for another hour.
We could easily do this.
So, again, they've released a bunch of Rock Band games, a bunch of Guitar Hero games, both publishers, developers, etc. At least a bunch of stuff from that 2005 to 2015 was the last game in each of their respective entries. And there's been a lot of good times. There's been a lot of fun times. And in the end, there were highlights for sure, like especially with Rock Band, they had the Rock Band Network, which allowed a lot of independent artists to release their own songs on the Rock Band platform and charge like anywhere from $1 to I think $3.
Yeah.
Which was pretty neat that independent artists could release their own stuff and advertise like, hey, I've got my song on Rock Band. I think they don't do that anymore. But during the Rock Band 3 days, they did. And it was, again, another way of getting even more music and exposing yourself to new music. And there were a couple bands I ended up getting into because it was on Rock Band Network. Hey, I want to go see what else they have. And so I would go buy it on iTunes because I think that was the only really way to get music at the time. There wasn't Spotify or anything back then. In the end, for Rock Band specifically, they sold over 13 million copies. It had over $1 billion in sales. As of this recording, although I think it's more, and over 4,000 songs released by 1,200 different artists. Not bad.
That is pretty good. And a staple achievement for any sort of gaming entity, really. $1 billion in revenue. Can't believe how many units. I mean, considering how large the box was, considering how expansive it was, that's quite impressive. And it's a marvel of history that we experienced, grew up, and lived through that innovation, that rise, that fall. I wouldn't mind if it
came back in some
capacity. I would love if it came back.
If it went mainstream again, that'd be pretty awesome but in the end, if it doesn't, you and I and a bunch of other millennials got to be there in its heyday. Like when we were in college, all jamming out together. And
Yeah.
looking back on it, it was probably the best time it could have happened.
Yeah, I was Guitar Hero champion of Curry College 2011.
Good times.
Good times.
Like-
Hey, yeah, thanks for tuning in for us this episode. I hope that you had some good times. Let us know down below.
Yes, if you played Rock Band or Guitar Hero back in the day, friends, family, definitely let us know, because this was quite the cultural experience in the U.S. for officially 10 years, but in earnest, about a 6-year gap. So please let us know.
Yeah, let us know if you're still into it, too. If you're still downloading the new DLC, or if it's something that you continue to wait and play every day.
Yep. And so with that, if you like our stuff and you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. Greatly helps us with outreach and getting to new people. Same way on Spotify, give us a follow there and help us get to new ears and new listeners.
Yeah. If you are a part of the Instagram community, we are on the Instagram. You can find us at Pinpoint Player.
Please follow us there on Instagram, because we only have 8 followers. So I promise it's a real account. We just need more followers.
Just give us a follow, you know. If you listen, just give us a follow. No worries. We're also on the YouTube. We've got the YouTubes. We've got some wonderful content up there, and we've got some great videos planned for the future. So like, subscribe on the YouTube, and give us a comment if you liked what you saw on our channel.
And if you want to just reach us by email to send us any comments, feedback, or whatever, pinpointplayers@gmail.com. And with that, thank you guys for being part of this Rock Band Guitar Hero rhythm games discussion, and we'll see you for the very next one.
Keep rocking, Pinpoint Players.